So we might as well get that done. That way we can move on to other stuff. So let's see. Where are you? There you are. Let's go. But yeah, at least in regards to like the game itself for that, I think I prefer it over Genshin. Maybe that's just because I like Ni no Kuni or whatever, so there's like brand recognition, I guess. But at least from like the game itself, it's fun. Genshin was fun, but like it got really boring very fast because of how reliant it was on dailies. I'm not saying that freaking Ni no Kuni will either, because clearly there's like bits of pay to win shit in there, so I don't know. I don't know how it's gonna go. I'll just see how it goes in the next few days or weeks. So, witness, please state your name and occupation for the court. Eugene Mikotoba, lecturer in forensic medicine at the Imperial Yume University in Tokyo, Japan. And Professor Mikotoba, the young lady beside you is... Ah, this is Dr. Maria Gori. Scotland Yard's practicing coroner. The daughter of the Dr. Scythe, understand. Yes, Dr. Scythe. Actually, hang on a second. One moment. Not that one. All right. Now let's go. I'm afraid I can't tell you why she's here. She just appeared. Yeah, she's just here. You summoned this strange Japanese man as a witness to that autopsy. But you don't summon Mama. That makes no sense. She was there too. That's about the size of it. I've had her eyes boring into the side of my cheek constantly, whilst I was in the antechamber too. Poor man. The idea of it's making me shudder. The revelations about Dr. Scythe came to light about some days ago, defiled the reputation of the entire judiciary. She was therefore deemed unfit to appear as a witness in today's proceedings. The Ministry of Justice's decision on that is final. Well, we wouldn't want any more perjury to be committed, would we? The Ministry of Justice? Some questionable strings are being pulled, I think. I remember you, Dr. Mikotoba. But I certainly never expected to be meeting you under these circumstances. Yes, it's been a long while, Lord Strongheart. The prosecution understands that you were a visiting student of forensic science in London until 10 years ago. That's right. I studied under Dr. Wilson at St. Sinners. So, you were present at the autopsy of my brother, Lord Clint Van Zeeks. I was, yes. I assisted Dr. Wilson with the entire procedure. Mama's far more skilled than any Japanese man. Well, Dr. Wilson asked me to be his primary assistant on that occasion. And this autopsy report was actually penned by you, I believe. Yes. I noted all of the doctor's findings, and when we were done, he read through the document and signed it. Poor Mama. As a secondary assistant, she wouldn't have such a good view of all the innards. So, Professor, do you remember Inspector Gregson? Yes, of course. If it wasn't for his insistence, Lord Van Zeek's autopsy would never have happened. But he was absolutely convinced that it would reveal decisive evidence against Genshin, you see. So Lord Stronghart had to entreat the nobility to allow it to take place. Do correct me if I am wrong, my lord. It was as a result of that autopsy that a mass murderer was apprehended and justice was done. But Gregson admitted it before he was killed. He admitted that the results of the autopsy were fabricated. You were there at the time, so you must testify. You have an obligation to tell the truth about what really went on. Absolutely. That's precisely why I'm here. And that's why I'm here too. Very well then, you will give your formal testimony now, witness. Before you begin, a word of warning. Oh? You will state truthfully and accurately to what you saw and what you heard at the time. I wouldn't dream of doing otherwise, my lord. The moment your testimony verges on suspicion, I will expel you from my courtroom. Remember that. Well, yes, we'll see. And he probably wants to do that because he wants to hide the truth. From my own observations, I couldn't say there was any indication of the autopsy results having been fabricated. Death resulted from a wound made by a Western-style sword transfixing the heart, that I found a little strange. There are no other signs of internal injury, nothing questionable at all. It was just that beautiful but dangerous piece of evidence removed from the man's stomach. Presumed to have been swallowed by the victim as a way of posthumously identifying his assailant. No indication. Nothing to suggest fabrication. Professor Miko Toba, are you certain about that? Well, nothing that I could possibly identify as such, much less swear to it in testimony. Ah! Well, that clears up nicely. The one and only fabrication here, Asogi, has come from you. What? You claim the inspector confessed just before his death, but that is the fabrication. No, he freely acknowledged it. I swear he did. Freely, with the tip of a sword at his throat. The man has clearly at his wit's end. The court will give no credence to this confession that was uttered in obvious desperation. Quite simply, there was nothing questionable about the investigation of Lord Clint Van Zeek's death. And with this testimony, we have, without question, uncovered the whole truth of the matter. If I may, my lord. There was most certainly something questionable about it, and the whole truth does rather elude us, I feel. I beg your pardon? Well, you're obviously aware of the facts of the case. All four of the professor's previous victims died when an enormous beast was set upon them that ripped out their throats. Such horrifying crimes. But curiously, the killer's last victim, Lord Clint Van Zeeks, suffered a different fate. Yes, you're right. He was stabbed through the heart with a sword. That's enough. I believe I warned you about this, witness. I promise to curtail your testimony as soon as it entered the realms of superstition or speculation. Very well, my lord. In that case, the defense will pursue a conclusion of this during the cross-examination. What? I have the right to cross-examine every witness after testimony. And I fully intend to exercise that right. Ryunosuke. I'm afraid that even the presiding judge has no authority to contravene the letter of the law, as I'm sure every member of the judiciary present in the gallery would agree. Very well, you may begin, counsel. However, the moment your argument strays from the established facts, I will not hesitate to bring the cross-examination to an end. Proceed with caution. Yes, my lord. Asshole. Dangerous piece of evidence, huh?
Hold it!
What does that mean? What exactly was it, though? What does beautiful but dangerous mean? Well, it was sparkly and round with a hole, as if it might slip over a finger, perhaps. A ring? It was a ring, belonging to Genshin Asogi. My father's ring was inside the victim's stomach? At the time, Genshin wore a large ring on the indigenous quarters of his left hand, the fourth or ring finger. I understand it was sort of a keepsake. When my father left Japan for London 16 years ago, I was 8 years old. But I remember that ring. You do? My father's possessions were sent to our family home in Japan after his death, but the ring wasn't among them. Obviously not. It was a key piece of evidence. It remains under lock and key in the stores at Scotland Yard to this day. After the autopsy, Genshin was summoned by the police to check for the presence of his ring. It wasn't on his hand, of course. Moreover, there were deep abrasions on his finger where it had been pulled off. They arrested the man there and then, right before my eyes. How could they? I brought the ring along with me today. What? Here it is, a bit dusty from years in the stores. Good gracious, yes, that's it. Haven't seen that in 10 long years. And that was found inside the victim's stomach? Yes, I'm afraid so. You hesitated there, Presto Mikoto, but should we read something into that? Well, it's just that thinking back now, I didn't actually witness the moment it was extracted from the victim's body. Fabrication? My, really? At that precise moment, Dr. Wilson asked me to fetch him a scalpel, you see. Dr. Gory, the removal of the historic evidence from the stores requires my consent, does it not? However, it came to be here, the court cannot deny that this is crucial evidence for today's proceedings. Very well, you may submit it. It's not the sort of ring you normally see in Japan. They almost look like claws protecting that jewel. Examine it very carefully, Mr. Naruto. Very carefully indeed. These fat claws are doing a good job of protecting the equally fat gemstone in the middle of this ring. Yes, if you're clumsy, you could give yourself a rather nasty cut on them, I should think. Ow! Now my finger's bleeding. The claws really are sharp. Oh my, that was very quick clumsiness, Miss Naruto, even for you. Ugh. Who would make such a dangerous ring? You couldn't swallow it without doing yourself some fairly serious damage, surely. Sticking mochi bun about that size would go down much better. With some red bean paste in the middle. Someone as close to me would probably manage to choke on it somehow. Anything? Not seeing anything else. Huh? That makes no sense. If that's the case, this ring should have caused internal injury. Objection. The court has heard that the ring was extracted from the victim's stomach. But you didn't actually see it being removed, did you, Professor Mikotoba? That's right. As I said in my testimony before, at that moment I was fetching a replacement scalpel that Dr. Wilson had requested. In other words, you can neither confirm nor deny whether this ring, in fact, really came from the victim's stomach or not. What are you suggesting, counsel? That the ring was never in the victim's stomach to begin with. It's entirely feasible that Dr. Wilson fabricated that detail about the autopsy. What are you saying? That Dr. Wilson was in possession of the ring in advance, after it was somehow stolen from Mr. Asogi. And he produced it during the procedure, pretending to have found it in there and then into the victim's stomach.
Objection!
Superstition at best. What possible evidence do you have to support such a rash claim? This evidence right here. That's the autopsy report. It's explicit in that report, counsel. Other than the ring, nothing unusual is noted internally. I'm not sure how you intend to prove your point. You've already done it for me, my lord. The lack of internal injury says it all. What? To swallow a ring of this size would require considerable effort and determination. In addition to its size, there are the sharp claws around the gemstone to contend with. My brother was a determined man, and on the brink of death even more so, I'm sure. He would have stopped at nothing to ensure that evil killer was brought to justice. But if he really had swallowed that enormous ring, it's inconceivable that no trace of its passage down his throat would have remained as internal trauma. No! And there you have arrived at the sticking point. That's precisely why I had my doubts about the finding myself 10 years ago. Then why didn't you say something at the time? I did. I still remember the conversation I had with Dr. Wilson in the laboratory that day. Look at this. Now, this is a very curious thing to find in a man's stomach, wouldn't you say? But isn't that rather peculiar, Dr. Wilson? What's that now, Mikotoba? Well, if he swallowed a ring of that size with those sharp metal rings that it has, surely you expect to see damage to the throat and esophagus. Torn mucous membranes at the very least. Dr. Mikotoba, may I remind you that I have vastly more experience than you. I'm terribly sorry. I can think of plenty of ways that explain why no injuries would be seen. No, let's say this. The victim would appear to have ingested the item as evidence to identify his assailant. Go ahead, write it down. So I was right. Dr. Wilson deliberately fabricated the results of the autopsy to implicate my father. I'm disappointed, Counsel. That argument is nothing more than speculation. What? Dr. Wilson was Britain's leading authority on forensic science and autopsy work. There's no scientific basis on which to doubt the man's expert opinion. Pardon the interruption, my lord, but damage to the mucous membranes of the throat is easily identified even in living subjects. Using a device called an endoscope, recently demonstrated in practical use in France. I want one. The government can pay. I don't think so. And Dr. Gory, rest assured that your removal of evidence from the stores without permission will not go unpunished. We open up the dead to find the truth. I beg your pardon? But Mama, she chose to stitch her corpses up, with all her secrets inside. That's wrong. Dr. Gory, it's looking as though she's chosen to walk a different path to her mama. She seeks the truth. Yes, the ring. What about the ring? I've just remembered something. An earlier incident. What incident? The one I recounted to you before, about a memory I have of Genshin Aosugi saving my life. What? My father saved your life? It was 10 years ago, on a foggy night. Genshin and I were walking down some back streets at a late hour. All of a sudden... Don't make a peep, you're coming with us. All of our assailants were armed with pistols, their faces obscured by scarves. The next thing I knew, there was silence all around. Genshin lay on the cobbled street. Blood was seeping from his left hand. He'd shielded me. It was on the ring finger of his left hand that he used to wear that ring. Are you saying... I've always believed those thugs were after me. But now, I'm starting to question if perhaps I wasn't the intended target after all. Wait, but... Genshin was arrested 2 days after that attack. In that short interval, the decisive evidence needed to indict him was miraculously found. You mean, the ring was stolen from him? You think that's what those thugs were after that night? More than likely.
Objection!
You pathetic coward. Expect you to believe that you weren't involved? Kazuma, come on! What do you mean by that? It was you, wasn't it? You're the one who took it. You stole my father's ring. You set the whole thing up so you could paint him as the mass murderer and have him... Kazuma. Open your eyes. Ryunosuke? You must know deep down. The truth can be completely obscured even when your judgment is only slightly clouded. But at the moment, you seem to be floundering through a dense fog. Is that why you were so insistent I should be present in this trial? To see you like this? Well, this is an amusing spectacle. What a grandiose expression on your face, as if you were Lady Justice herself. It seems you thoroughly convinced yourself of this alleged fabrication of the autopsy results. So much so that you're apparently blind to the blatant contradiction that would be born of it. What? Though it's extremely hard to believe, let us imagine that there was some misconduct during the autopsy. If that were the case, why would Asugi not have disputed the findings in his trial? Oh. I think that it's very much the case that he would take the downfall. In the closed court hearing 10 years ago, the defendant never once denied the claims against him. Isn't that right, Lord Van Zeeks? Yes, that is indeed correct. Upon hearing the verdict of guilty, he merely closed his eyes, quietly accepting the judgment. The actions of a man who accepted responsibility for his deeds is resigned to his fate. But then... Oh my, that is very strange. Mr. Asugi did nothing to oppose the charges against him, then... That would surely mean there was no fabricated evidence. An obvious conclusion at which you should have arrived many minutes ago, Prosecutor Asugi. Your twisted loyalty and clouded judgment are hampering your ability for logical thought. Arg. Genshin Asugi's silence at his hearing can mean only one thing. There was no fabrication of evidence during the autopsy of his final victim 10 years ago. That's what you say. But that also was all above board. There'll be nothing to stop Lord Stronger bringing his trial to an immediate conclusion.
Objection!
Thank you, Ryunosuke. If it wasn't for your frank words just now, this trial may very well have ended prematurely. Kazuma? What's this latest absurdity, Council? My lord, your reasoning is perfectly sound, but for one giant hole. I beg your pardon. You claim my father's silence was due to the fact that there was no fabricated evidence. There's another possible explanation. You've overlooked the possibility that he had a reason for maintaining that silence.
Objection!
Silence that would lead to him being convicted and sent to his death. If the autopsy results were an invention, There's no conceivable reason why the man wouldn't have protested.
Objection!
Oh, those were an invention, all right. There's no question of that. Or are you forgetting that 2 people with a connection to Ansaldi have been assassinated? If I force the grievances I feel from my mind, I start to see you in a very different light. I think perhaps it's you who's been living in delusion these 10 years. Me? Kazuma-sama has created one last chance for us here, Mr. Naruhodo. He can only show there was a reason for his father's silence in his trial. The escape. Reason why the man would have said nothing even though he was innocent. Would have been some part of negotiation, perhaps? Enough rhetoric. This court must be shown evidence. What proof do you have that could possibly explain Aosugi's silence in court? The dismissal.
Take that!
It's true that Genshin Aosugi's silence during his trial resulted in his conviction. But that didn't actually lead to his execution. On the contrary, it led to his escape. An escape that was only possible because he'd been sentenced to death. Though I'd find it hard to believe my father would have negotiated in that way. Defense is correct. A fake execution, falsification of a death certificate, and a jailbreak inside a coffin. Clearly, such an elaborate plan couldn't have been carried out by my father alone. He must have had the help of a collaborator from the judiciary. I have here the dismissal notice of the chief warder who was working in the prison at the time. Notes read, there are indications that the jailbreak was planning prior to the inmate's incarceration. In other words, there were suggestions of some sort of negotiation between Mr. Aosugi and the British government. In exchange for silence in courts, he was given an assurance that he would be broken out of prison. Yes, that was sort of clandestine agreement in place. I can imagine he would have been kept very quiet. I would go further than that. In fact, I would say that the elaborate jailbreak of Mr. Aosugi can be explained in no other way. Order, order. First fabricated evidence, and now a jailbreak conspiracy. Of course, because it's all intimately linked. The prosecution wishes to summon new witnesses to the stand. Witnesses. People who can testify about the jailbreak that took place 10 years ago. Governor Caden and the poor chief warder of the prison. I won't allow this trial to turn into a farce. To summon the governor of the prison after all these years. Oh, it wouldn't be any trouble, my lord. What? Father. My dear friend may appear a little rattle-pitted at times, but I can assure you he is extremely thorough. He wired both Barclay and the local prison earlier, asking Governor Caden and Mr. Vigil to attend the Old Bailey as a matter of extreme urgency. Mr. Sholmes did that? Are you telling me that? Both men are, unless I'm mistaken, waiting just outside the courtroom at this very moment. Got him! My lord, you must permit this trial to proceed as you declared at its outset. You promised that we would stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth behind these disturbing findings. But you don't want to because it will incriminate you. won't it? Very well, bring in the witnesses. Make no mistake, I too would like nothing more than lay this business to rest once and for all. So you say. Will the new witnesses state their names and occupations for the court, please? Aye. Barry Caden, Governor of Barclay Prison. Everyone calls me Gossip. I so jaunty. Your other persona, if you don't mind. Oh, I do beg your pardon, of course. Whoops. Wrong persona. My name is Daily Vigil. I used to be the chief warder at Barclay Prison. The reason you've been summoned here to court today is to testify about the jailbreak of the so-called Professor 10 years ago. Oh, the Professor? We've already been through all this before, a decade ago. The conclusion was that there wasn't anything untoward anything happened. A convict escaped from your prison, Governor. Hardly what you call nothing untoward. Well, convict's death was somehow falsified after he was allegedly executed. And he escaped the prison inside his own coffin. A plan of that complexity could never have been carried out without the help of somebody of influence inside the prison. Governor Caden, don't imagine that the passage of time will afford you any protection. It turns out that you were involved in the plot to break Mr. Asugi out of your prison, and of course, the consequences will be very serious. In all likelihood, a capital punishment. Gats! Hold on there, laddie! Witness, Governor Caden. Aye, aye, sir. You have a critical role to play in the public safety of our country. A great responsibility is shouldered. The significance of your testimony in court cannot be understated. Therefore, think carefully before you speak. And Prosecutor Asogi, if you threaten the witness again, you will be held in contempt of court. My apologies, my lord. Still disputing the fact that an intricate jailbreak plot was enacted 10 years ago. Clearly you both were involved in some way. So you will testify before the court now and explain exactly what took place. Very well. Let the witnesses give their full testimony. Tell the court everything you know of the plot to break Aosugi out of Barclay 10 years ago. It was the day that Japanese jock was found guilty. The directive came from the prosecutor's office. I assigned the convict to the chief warder Vigil here, and put the plan into action behind the scenes. I was responsible for Asugi right up until the night of his execution, but I knew nothing of any plot. I didn't ken if there was some negotiations between the convict and the prosecutor's office. All I did was carry out my duty for Her Majesty's Great British Empire. Alright. A directive from the prosecutor's office. Are you saying that was the jailbreak plot? Aye, that's right. Who sent it? Who authorized that plan? I didn't ken that. You're saying you don't know? Listen, there wasn't anything about that professor case that wasn't unusual in some way. I didn't ask any questions. I just did what I was told to do. More than that, I couldn't tell you. I see. The jailbreak plan originated from the prosecutor's office. And one thing is very clear. As suspected, there were clandestine dealings going on between Mr. Asogi and that office. The jailbreak was promised in exchange for Mr. Asogi and many of the crimes he didn't commit. That, counsel, is nothing more than speculation on your part. So, let me ask the defense. Yes, my lord? I failed to see how these witnesses have any more pertinent information here. Do you intend to assert your right to a cross-examination? Absolutely. I have no intention of squandering a single opportunity, my lord. It seems all you Japanese are fairly tenacious. Fiercely. Very well. Proceed, counsel.
Hold it!
Did you carry the planet in its entirety? I did everything I could at the time. As you know, Genshin Aosugi was shot dead in Locate Cemetery after the escape. Tell me, was that part of the plan too? My instructions were to do with getting the jock out of the jail and nothing more. I cannot tell you anything about what happened after that, only... Personally, I believe his death was the last part of the plan. Oh, what do you got to say about that?
Excuse me.
Mr. Vigil, is something wrong? Yes, sir. What can I do for you, sir? He's saluting now? What is it, some sort of Barclay convention? What Governor Kaden was just saying seemed to upset you. Did it bring something to mind, perhaps? For the last 10 years, I've completely blotted out the memories of that time from my mind. I was betrayed by my superiors in the name of my country. Just as my father was betrayed, it seems. But you see, thinking back now, I really can't imagine that the shooting of Mr. Aosugi in the cemetery was ever part of the plan. What makes you think that? Well, it just doesn't make any sense, does it? To make the man admit to the crimes he didn't commit with the promise of a jailbreak, only to kill him in the end. That's treachery of the worst kind. But the point is, if the intention was to always betray him, why would there be any need for all the treacheries of an escape? That's true. Yes, it's quite true. If whoever negotiated with Aosugi never intended to keep his or her end of the bargain, it would have been far simpler just to let the man be executed in prison as dictated by his sentence. It all happened in that vast chamber of secrets at his Barclay, behind the high prison walls. Suppose nobody knows what really went on in the execution room now. Yes, it's an unsettling mystery, certainly. Truth be told, there is a wee matter that's never quite made sense to me. If you believe there was some kind of negotiation behind that jailbreak between Aosugi and the body at the top, it doesn't quite add up, does it? Governor Caden, I must insist that you explain these doubts that you have. By amending your formal testimony. Gats! Aye, go on then. It seems to me that the Japanese fellow didn't have nothing to bargain with. Oh.
Objection.
Huh. Confessing under oath the murders he didn't commit on the verbal assurance of later being broken out of prison. Genshin Aosugi was taking an incredibly risky gamble. Very true. There was nothing to stop the British breaking their word and executing him behind closed doors anyway. Under normal circumstances, no man would stake his life on a gentleman's agreement like that. Which means that Mr. Aosugi must have had a trump card. Something that guaranteed he wouldn't be betrayed. Some kind of weapon. Havers, the fellow couldn't have possibly had anything like that. But you know that he did, Governor. The Aosugi papers, the name given to the last will and testament of Genshin Aosugi. Turns out that Mr. Aosugi was hiding his will in his cell at Barclay. Chief Warder Rizzo caught him with it one day. You squealed, did you, you wee rat? Did I tell you to keep that secret? You can't touch me now. Arrgh! When Mr. Vigil caught sight of that will through the bars of the convict cell, Mr. Aosugi pleaded with the warder. Alright then, what's on that paper? A last will and testament. This will is the only weapon I have left now. A weapon? And after the convict had been killed following the elaborate pretense of the jailbreak, that document mysteriously disappeared, didn't it? Oh yes, all the prison warders searched through the belongings in his cell, but that will was just nowhere to be found. As I understand it, an exhaustive search was made for the document, which became known as the Aosugi Papers. Governor Caden, I believe you ordered your prison staff to find it at all costs, didn't you? Eh? Would I be right in saying that you knew? You knew that the so-called Aosugi Papers had the potential to make great waves somehow. Jinx! What the blazes are you blithering about? The will was found right and proper. In the fellow's cell where I said it would be. But how can that be? We're in his cell. He'll search the place from top to bottom. Well, you didn't do a proper job, eh? You peely-wally galoot. You can't criticize me now. I showed it to you before, did I, young lawyer? Yes, you did. I have the document here. Written in Japanese and reads, Last Will and Testament of Genshin Aosugi. Which means everything is as it should be. Not quite, my lord, you see. There's an undeniable inconsistency here. What? What inconsistency? Mr. Aosugi described the assignment as the only weapon he had left. And yet, this will contains nothing as to give us at all. Nothing that would be given the convicts any leverage. Are you suggesting, my loaded friend, that the last will and testament stored at Barclay Prison all these years is actually a fake? All has clearly been demonstrated already. What went on at Barclay Prison was far from above board. Indeed. That last vilification and offense was an affront to the entire British legal system. This absurd notion of a weapon is something for which we have only the former Chief Warder's word. The man could quite easily be lying, or at the very least, sorely mistaken. What? No! I definitely heard him say that. I swear! Clearly, we need to get to the bottom of this. We need to know exactly what happened with these so-called Asogi papers. A waste of time. If the will was fake, where is the real document?
Protection.
Mr. Vigil was stabbed in the back by the judiciary 10 years ago. He lost everything, very nearly his own life. And now you're going to do it again. You're ready to brand him a liar and turn your back on him without even letting him defend himself. What did you say? It would seem that a vocal few here are utterly blind to the truth. Very well then, let the witness testify again. Tell the court precisely what you think you saw of the convict's last will and testament. Yes, sir, my lord. As a chief warder responsible for condemned convicts, I attended to Mr. Asogi and kept watch over his cell. Then after he was found guilty in court, he was doing something with that will in his cell. We turned the cell inside out for it after the execution, but to no avail. I only found out about the Asogi papers when a directive came telling me to impound them. Lemon was in the folds of the fellow's robe that was left in his cell. A kimono, I think it's called. In his kimono? That's a lie! We searched every inch of the man's cell. We looked through all his clothes. It can't be true. Were you not satisfied with calling me a liar the once, eh, you wee waffinger? There's nothing you can do about it now. You don't have any hold over me anymore. Other than the hole you like to take on my cravat, of course. Is that what you're going to do, is it? Are you going to give me a good shake again? Are you too scared? Rawr! Little and large, what a double act. We compiled with Asugi's will as far as was possible. All of his personal effects were delivered to his family home in Japan. As a courtesy to the homeland of the most notorious killer to our country has ever seen. And we were much obliged. I can confirm that all my father's belongings arrived safely. Aye, and you cannot deny the handwriting is that of your old man, eh? Yes, there's no mistaking that it's my father's brushwork. Really? And this last will and testament was the man's last weapon, was it? I think we have safely assumed that the convict was merely prattling, knowing that his end was nigh. So, counsel of defense, your cross-examination, please. Yes, my lord. Tell me more. In Mr. Asoki's kimono? Aye, the one he had brought with him when he was locked up. Yes, he was permitted to have his personal effects with him during his incarceration, I understand. That's right, he was granted as much freedom as possible during the few days before his execution. Indeed, and a number of items of personal significance, I remember. He was very reluctant to part with them. Some books, that kimono, his sword. His sword? Karuma, the famous sword of the Asogi clan. There's the soul of my family. I don't doubt it, but I wasn't really getting at that. Forget it being the soul of the clan. Could that man have had a more obvious weapon? Have some respect, Ryunosuke. Respectful silence? The warders carry firearms at all times, and the inmates have shackles around their ankles. He couldn't have hurt anybody with that thing. Still, he was allowed to have a sword, but no writing materials. Aye. He wrote that will before he came to the list as a Barclay, you see. Dr. Mitoba was asked to bring the necessary Japanese writing implements to the prosecutor's office. Shijiri inkstone and black sumi ink and some asheri rice paper, no doubt. I was present when he wrote it, but I'm sorry to say that does just look like a sort of massive jet black earthworms to me.
Excuse me.
Huh? Are you feeling faint, Mr. Vigil? Mr. Vigil! Sir! It was Scarlet, sir! What? No, I'm terribly sorry. I didn't mean to blurt it out like that. Less swaying and more explaining would be helpful. Something about the testimony we just heard? Have you recalled something of importance? Something of importance? Possibly or possibly not. Unable to tell which way he's leaning, I'm afraid. My lord, defense asks that Mr. Vigil be permitted to supplement his testimony with this possibly or possibly not important detail. Permission granted. Go ahead, Mr. Vigil. Yes, it was Scarlet. 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 Hmm. Hmm.
Objection.
Scarlet-colored writing is what you said you thought you saw, Mr. Vigil. But I believe that's exactly what you did see. What? Havers again, you're no evidence to say that. Have a look at this report. That's my brother's autopsy report. Yes, and there's something in here that's bothered me since I first read it. It states that scarlet-colored ink stains were noted on the fingers of the victim's right hand. Yes, so it does. Scarlet ink? Now, I'm not familiar with the habits of the British aristocracy, I freely admit. But I would hazard a guess that they don't all go around with ink stains on their fingertips, do they? Your wit is not appreciated. My brother was a well-bred and fastidious man. Should ink have sullied his fingertips, he would have cleaned them immediately. What is your point, Counsel? My point is this. Whatever Lord Clint Van Zeeks was writing in that unusually colored ink, it must have been directly before his death. Because he died before he had the opportunity to clean his hand. What? I remember somebody troubling me at the time. At the scene, the lid of my brother's inkwell was open. But Clint was punctilious about such things. It seemed unusual. And no document penned in the color of the ink that was in the inkwell was ever found. So the document had disappeared. Are you suggesting that document my father had in his hand that night in his cell was the same document that Lord Clint Van Zeeks was writing moments before his death? Then it was... If Mr. Vigil's testimony is believed, it can only mean that, yes. Mr. Vigil. Sir! When you spotted Mr. Asogi with the document in his cell, his precise words were as follows, were they not? Alright then, but what's on that paper? A last will and testament. This will is the only weapon I have left now. A last will and testament? If the conversation really did go as Mr. Vigil says, then what we know now completely changes the meaning of what Mr. Asogi said. It was Clint's. You really think? Mr. Vigil didn't see the convent with a will, but it wasn't that of Genshin Asogi. It was the last will and testament of Lord Clint Van Zeeks. No! What?
Objection!
This is madness. My brother's last will and testament. That would mean that he had chosen to die. That is what it would mean, yes. No! Impossible! That is utterly out of the question. Lord Van Zeeks. Clint was pursuing the professor, consumed him day and night. Whatever happened, he would never have abandoned his investigation before its conclusion. Never! He would have rested till the job was done, till the killer was caught. The idea that he would willingly accept his own death is obscene.
Objection!
And yet, we could be sure that it was writing his will moments before his death. And that Genshin Asogi came to possession of that document. So that the will could possibly have contained... clearly something that couldn't be made public under any circumstances whatsoever. As armed with that document, my father was able to negotiate with the judiciary for his life. It was something so damning that it prompted the powers that be to enact that daring jailbreak plot. Yes, there can be no question that the will contained information of the utmost secrecy. Information of the utmost secrecy? No, it couldn't be. I've heard more than enough. Pursuing this notion of a phantom nobody can attest having seen serves absolutely no purpose.
Objection!
No, my lord, that's unacceptable. What did you say, counsel? The last will and testament that Genshin Asogi had in his possession was that of Lord Clint Van Zeeks. All the testimony and evidence presented to the court has logically led us to that as a possibility. We have a duty to pursue the line of reasoning to its conclusion. But with no possible means of knowing the contents of the argument, there is no line of reasoning to pursue. Reason why Lord Zeke's, a man of high and noble standing, would have chosen death. Information so secret people in judiciary would be willing to negotiate the jailbreak of a condemned killer. The only explanation that fits those facts. Some unthinkable truth that turns absolutely everything on its head. A confession. But it's just too hideous. So not although. However difficult the situation might become, your work with the client in pursuit of the truth. That's what you resolved to do when you entered the courtroom this morning, if I'm not mistaken. Miss Susato. So hold your head high and keep soldiering on. Yes, you're right. 10 years ago, in his final moments, Lord Clint Van Zeeks left behind a will. A will that Genshinowski was able to use a weapon to negotiate his escape from prison. In all probability, the details in the will were related to the Professor case. The defense's last statement is mere conjecture. What are you getting at, man? Ryunosuke. As soon as these words come into my mouth, there's no going back. I believe that the last will and testament of Lord Clint Van Zeeks was in fact a confession. You can do this, Mr. Naruto. I believe that what Lord Van Zeeks, Clint Van Zeeks, had actually penned that day was a confession. A confession? Regarding the mass murderer known as the Professor and his true identity.
Objection!
Enough, Counsel. What are you saying? Do you even realize? A confession about the true identity of the Professor. That would mean... Lord Van Zeeks, I appreciate this must be hard to take in. But it's the only explanation that fits. Your brother was the Professor. The killer that terrorized London a decade ago and became known as the Professor. The man believed to have murdered 5 members of the aristocracy. Wasn't Genshin Asoki at all. No, you can't be suggesting. It was in the fact the man believed to have been the 5th victim. Lord Clint Van Zeeks himself. It's finally open, is it? Pandora's box. The Great Van Zeeks family, they've been thoroughbreds of the British judiciary for years. My brother. Oh, this is too awful. Poor Lord Van Zeeks. I wonder, though, did he never suspect? Mr. Naruto. Lord Beric Van Zeek is a brilliant prosecutor. It's conceivable that he didn't realize what his older brother really was. Order, order, order in the court. Lord Van Zeeks. Professor made use of an enormous hound as his murder weapon. Tell me, did your brother own a dog? Yes, he did. Balmung. He was a well-known hunting dog. People called him a giant. I don't believe this. When my brother would go hunting in the forest of the grounds behind the house, he always took Balmung. After Clint's death, the creature passed away too, almost as if he were following his master. He was a magnificent hunting dog, worthy of jewel-studded collar around his neck. Jewel-studded collar? Wait. There was a collar. Yeah. That's right. Though sadly, some years ago now, it was stolen by a thief who broke into the house one night. Jewel-studded collar, stolen by a thief. It so happens that myself and my colleagues have come across such a collar during our time in London. How could you? There was an old emblem attached to the collar too, made of pure gold. Balmung. Topped with a small crown and bore an ornate capital letter B. What? And then I'm bearing the initial B? Oh my, you know it? It's the insignia of the Baskerville family. But the Baskerville? Why is that name coming out now? Baskerville is the family name of my late brother's widow. That pure gold emblem was an heirloom which Clint acquired upon their marriage. There can be no doubt then. The collar you described was Balmung's. Family insignia of Lord Van Zeke's widow. There's a considerable amount of blood on the collar when we saw it. As we know the dog was used for hunting, it could have been used from its quarry, of course. But it could equally have been from human prey. So is it true then? Lord Van Zeke's really was the professor? Possible. These Japanese are making it all up in their own. So in fact, the person responsible for these murders of the nobles and royals was a noble himself. And that threatened to be an enormous scandal that would irreparably destabilize British society. My father knew that, and was using it to negotiate his way out of the unjust charges brought against him. At the very last hour, those he bargained with betrayed him, slaying him mercilessly on foreign soil. Well, can you deny it, Lord Strongheart? "10 years have passed. And still now the 6 million inhabitants of our great capital rest easy believing that justice was done. That those anonymity remains. The diabolical murderer was caught and executed. Very well then, you may have the truth." Tell me then. Tell me what Clint really was. The Reaper behind everything. Lord Clint Van Zeeks was too pure of heart. When he became a prosecutor and went in pursuit of the black roots of crime, he drove himself into a corner. He came to the uncomfortable realization that to fight the most fiendish of criminals requires one to become even more fiendish oneself. Clint. Clint. The 19th century was truly a miraculous 100 years for Great Britain and indeed the world. New industry, new technology, and with the birth of the Metropolitan Police Service, new law and order. But these dazzling new developments meant ever deeper shadows were cast on society. Water sullied by factories, air thick with noxious fumes and crime, growing daily to fill the darkness. Lord Clint Van Zieks made it his mission to combat that darkness. But as time went on, it slowly ate at his soul until eventually he was consumed. It's ironic, really, and somewhat surprising that the truth had once again been unearthed by a Japanese. Once again? What do you mean? 10 years ago, your father, Genshin Asugi, turned up at my office one night. The professor? Yes, beyond a shadow of a doubt. You must issue a warrant to search his home at once. Don't be absurd. That man comes from one of our country's most illustrious families. He's a paragon of justice here in the capital. Yes, that's the point. That's why none of you British can see it. He's using his noble status as a virgin whilst he commits these atrocious crimes behind the scenes. Do you have evidence? Nothing definitive as of yet. Keeps an enormous savage hound on the estate. We need the full support of the judiciary for this. We're up against a member of the aristocracy. So a large family estate has a fierce guard dog. You should know that's commonplace here in Britain. I'm sorry, but I can't possibly put Scotland Yard onto this based on the tenacious accusation of a visiting student. So I turned down Asugi's plea. As a result, he took it upon himself to visit the Van Zieks mansion on his own. We can only imagine now what happened between the two men. Though we know the outcome, of course. Lord Clint Van Zieks perished. I don't believe this. So in actual fact, Kazuma-sama's father did... He made the late Lord Van Zieks meet the same fate. Put a permanent end to the professor killings. By taking the drastic measure of ending the perpetrator's life. As soon as I heard, I hurried to the mansion. When I arrived, it was easy to grasp what had happened. And what about the will? Asugi must have already taken it. Nothing of that nature was found at the scene. We had no idea of the existence of such a document at that time. I was the only person who knew of the true identity of the professor. So, I resolved to keep it a secret, and to guard the secret to the bitter end. So you're admitting to it? That you were behind it all? It was you, then, who pinned the crimes on my father. I did what needed to be done in order to protect the law and order of the British Empire. Even if that meant employing an unforgivable ruse. And it was you who arranged this fabricated evidence. I ordered that detective to take care of it. I was keeping the truth from him, naturally. Gregson? Obviously, he opposed me at first. Are you off your rocker? We can't do something like that. There's no question that it was Aosugi who murdered Lord Van Zieks. The house staff have made arrangement that they saw this man running from the mansion that night. Yes, well, I've no doubt it was that Japanese fella. You haven't got a shred of conclusive evidence against the man. Worse than that, he doesn't keep a dog, or short of a murder weapon to boot. And we're short of time on time, Gregson. Put a stop to this man's rampage for the good of the country. So we'll use whatever means necessary. Do I make myself clear, detective? Blimey. So that night 10 years ago, when I was attacked by those thugs on the back streets, and Genshin's ring was taken, that was him, was it? That was Gregson and some hired help. The detective handed the stolen ring to Dr. Wilson, who feigned its discovery from the victim's stomach during that autopsy. In the light of that decisive evidence, Mr. Aosugi was found guilty of the charges brought against him. However, behind the scenes, he had actually struck a deal with his accusers, in which he agreed to silently accept the charges. I just don't believe that part. As far as I knew the man, my father despised such underhand dealings. It was extremely easy to make him comply. You see, he had one crippling weakness. What weakness? Wasn't it obvious? You, Kazuma Aosugi. Me? Perhaps you have no desire to return your homeland, Aosugi. What? Though I hear you have a 14-year-old son. Agree to cooperate and accept your guilt without contention, and you will see Japan and your son again. You scoundrel! Whether you choose wisely or not, it will be a closed trial by order of Her Majesty. So whatever rash claims you might make in court, we'll have no trouble in stifling them. There's only one outcome for you, Aosugi. The gallows. Don't forget that I still have a weapon at my disposal. A document revealing a truth that I know you're desperate to keep hidden. Yes, it hadn't upset my mind. It's the only reason I'm willing to bargain with you. I only want to protect this country's law and order, you understand? So, what's it to be, Aosugi? Kazuma. He did it for me? And as I told him at the time, my motive was simply to protect Britain from the damage the truth would do. To protect this country's law and order at any cost.
Objection!
I've never dared let myself even consider this possibility until now. But in the light of all this treachery, I have to ask. The mastermind behind the Reaper of the Bailey. Was it you, Lord Miles Strongheart? A rather brilliant idea. What did you say, Lord Baron von Zeeks? That's the spirit of your late brother. The paragon of justice should return to wreak justice for his sibling. Could there be a more appetizing tale for London's masses, I ask you? What praise it? I knew that you'd play the part to perfection. But your role really wasn't that of some embodiment of death. No, you are London's guardian angel. An angel with bloody hands? I think not. Those who had cooperated with me already were too happy to participate in my plan. Inspector Gregson, Dr. Wilson. My minions worked tirelessly to ensure that the finger of guilt would never come to rest on you. It's all thanks to them that you were exalted as the demigod the Reaper became. Dr. Wilson left 4 years ago when he was invited to work in Japan. That's right. So I had to employ the services of his young protege after that. Dr. Courtney Scythe. Dr. Scythe. So what with the execution of the prosecutor, professor, and the subsequent reign of the Reaper of the Bailey? I have successfully safeguarded law and order in Mighty Capital for the past decade. That is everything. Asshole. Even if it did bring law and order, you still fucked everyone else over. My lords, ladies and gentlemen, I do hereby confess. It was I who sired the concept of the Reaper. However, let me say in my defense, it was all for the preservation of law and order across the entire empire. There is no one left now who can reveal the precise truth of what happened 10 years ago. Therefore, this trial can go no further. Now, I would like to entreat all those present. Beyond these four walls, nobody need know the truth. Even Her Majesty must be protected from this. I trust you all appreciate the importance of my request. It is, of course, for the good of the country. Can he do this? Can the trial really end now?
Hold it!
Actually, hang on. I have one last question. For the accused Lord Van Zeeks. What? Of course I know that you're a highly accomplished prosecutor. So I find it hard to believe that you didn't have any doubts at all. That you never suspected your older brother. Yes, same thought occurred to me. It was only once, but yes, I couldn't say that I never had my doubts. My brother's sense of justice was extremely strong, perhaps too strong, I observed. At that time, there were members of the aristocracy who were bleeding the country dry for their own gain. Since they were nobles, they were untouchable. For my brother, it was a source of great turmoil. And coincidentally, at the time, the professor began his terrifying reign. During the time of the professor's killings, my brother did not appear to be himself. That made you suspect? Yes. But it was only once, not more. Only once? Really? Clint wasn't the culprit. That was my conclusion at the time. And I still believe that now. Do you have any evidence to support that idea? Third victim was the Lord Chief Justice at the time. It was he who had recognized my brother's potential and trained him as a prosecutor. No matter what the circumstances, it's unthinkable that my brother could have killed his friend and mentor. That will do. Neither Clint nor Genshin Asuki still walk this earth. However much we debate this matter now, we cannot hope to reach a conclusion. But there are only two extant pieces of evidence from the time. The woebegone ring that acted as the incriminating evidence to condemn Genshin Asuki, and the 3-page last will and testament penned in the black ink and left by the man. The wretched truth of what happened is exactly as I have explained. I don't know, I think you're hiding something more. Later today, I will present myself at the Ministry of Justice for whatever sanction is deemed appropriate. That is all. Court is adjourned.
Objection!
Thank you, Kazuma. Me? If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have made this 11th hour discovery. What discovery? My lord, I'm afraid I must insist the trial continues. I beg your pardon. This court has been reminded today already. We must stop at nothing to uncover the whole truth. And to that end, one particular statement made by somebody in this courtroom moments ago revealed a very subtle contradiction. What contradiction? But all I did was ask the accused one simple question. Well, it began Lord Venzies and his recollection about his brother. Lord Strongheart didn't permit the defendant to speak at length. I merely pointed out that we can draw no further useful conclusions here, so where on earth is the contradiction? One of them definitely just said something contradictory. It's time to definitely say who. Strongheart. It was Lord Strongheart, I'm sure of it. Something he said was slightly off. Come on, Ryu Snow. Think about over his words. Find the problem. Neither Clint Van Zieks nor Genshin Asuki still walk this earth. However much we debate this matter now, we cannot hope to reach a conclusion. There are only two excellent pieces of evidence from the time. The woebegone ring that acted as incriminating evidence against Genshin Asuki. 3-page will and testament penned in black ink and left behind by the man. You're right! There's only 2 papers here. There's 3. Where's this 3rd page? Huh? Lord Strongheart, would you care to explain? Explain what, Counsel? Among the statements made just a few moments ago, something you said was inconsistent with a certain piece of evidence we have. Inconsistent? And once the inconsistency remains, defense has a right to pursue an explanation. Yosuke, what? Let me warn you about the statements you are making, Counsel. They may very well prove fatal. The Asogi Papers.
Take that!
The 2-page will. What? Yet moments ago, your precise words were the 3-page last will and testament. Could it be that originally there was a 3rd page? A moment I thought perhaps you'd identified something worthwhile, but it's a mere trifle, I see. A trifle? Governor Caden? What can I do for you, sir? You were present when the Japanese man penned his last will and testament. I was there, sure. I remember that. Back where on scrolls like this today. And I'm quite certain, my lord, that there was a 3rd page at the time. But what? Only the first 2 pages were the actual will, though. If I mind correctly, the 3rd was a message to his lad back in Japan. For the legal purposes, we only required his will. And when you got another one and they come to the words about Britain to get back to Japan, eh? So it's decided that the 3rd page ought to be sent.
Objection!
How dare you make that decision? I had a right to know what it said. Hear my father's final words to me. The courtroom is no place for sentimentality, Counsel. As it happens, I have the 3rd page of the document with me here now. Wait, my father's message! It will be given you at the end of these proceedings. Too late once the trial is over. We need to know what it says now. Even the slightest thing may give us a vital clue. My lord, Vince calls for Genshin Asogi's last words to his son to be read out loud before the court now. Your request is denied. Inevitably, modern words can be of no consequence now.
Objection!
Prosecution agrees. Court should know the content of that message. Every possible piece of evidence must be thoroughly examined. Very well then, Governor Caden. You will read the 3rd page of the document for all present to hear. Yes, sir. Only, I should point out, my lord, that I cannot actually read Veronum language. This beautiful handwriting. Shame on you, Barry. If I could be of assistance here, I would be happy to translate the words into English for the court. Father! You're still here, are you, Dr. Mizutoba? Naturally, I consider myself a member of the judiciary, albeit a lowly one. But perhaps I should quietly withdraw after I've translated Genshin's message. Your cooperation is much appreciated. Kazuma, the truth is shrouded in darkness. A darkness only our clan's great sword can pierce. Mighty Kanruma, twist thy head and watch them fall, all thy mortal foes. That's the end of the message, it would seem. Haiku poem? Twist thy head? Father. What is Karuma? The name of the Asugi's clan's famous sword. A razor-sharp blade known to all, passed down to generations, embodies Japanese spirit. It's not known to me. It's a katana sword that was submitted as evidence earlier in these proceedings. The one worn by the prosecution counsel when he confronted Inspector Gregson. Mighty Karuma, twist thy head and watch them fall. All thy mortal foes. Proper ways to use a sword, is it? Maybe I should try it. Hurts my neck, that's trouble. Mr. Naruto, if I may make a suggestion. I think perhaps it doesn't mean your head. Oh. I once studied the history and development of the katana some time ago. As I'm sure you're probably aware, the sword's head is part at the very end of the hilt. It's written as head in Japanese, but it's pronounced as kashira, I believe. Kashira? So Mr. Asugi is really being twist the butt of the hilt. You don't think? Oh! Look what's inside it. Is that tiny one sheet of parchment? Oh! It's the testament! It's the last will and testament. Oh! I pen this, my last will and testament, in the final moments before my inevitable and willing death. This is it, isn't it? Mr. Naruto, look at the signature at the end! Lin Van Zeek's, and the date, 10 years ago, on that fateful night. So for 10 years, it's been silently concealed inside Karuma, and nobody knew. Last will and testament of Lord Van Zeek's. Wait. Oh my goodness. Look at this. Unbelievable. Probably, yeah. Well, we got something. As presiding judge, I have been as accommodating as possible of the will of the courtroom. However, despite all that, no new information has come to light. In pursuit of justice, Lord Convincing tragically lost all sense of morality. When he murdered his former mentor, he already devoid of his normal faculties.
Objection!
How dare you! I refuse to believe that of my brother. Too much time has passed. We cannot ever hope to know more than we do now. Especially since the alleged will that he penned in his final moments appears to have been lost forever. Well, we found it, so... Lord Strongheart, you appear to be in something of a hurry to wrap things up. I wonder why. You've heard you state time and time again during these proceedings that everything you did was in the interest of protecting British law and order. And I stand by that. Without the Reaper, we could never have achieved the reduction in crime the capital has seen.
Objection!
What about Inspector Gregson, then? and Dr. Wilson. They were no criminals. You used them to achieve your ends, and then you had them killed. However you dress it up, there was nothing fair just about that. Lord Strongheart, what exactly is it that you're hiding? A hidden truth. Dr. Mikotoba, were you not quietly to withdraw after the translation of your former associate's will? In this courtroom, no argument carries weight unless it is supported by evidence. And it would seem the defense has no more evidence to present. In which case, I hereby order all discourse from these proceedings to be struck from the record. Sorry, buddy, but we got evidence. This is my last chance. So not hold up. I have to present some nice evidence now, or it's all over. But can I? Present it. Wait, my lord. As it happens, defense does have evidence to present. What? Don't be absurd. There's nothing of relevance remaining from the time.
Objection!
It's high time that you realize something, my lord. This gentleman has an uncanny habit of producing evidence at the final hour that had escaped everyone else's attention. Nonsense. What is it, Ryunosuke? What do you have? I dare say the final decisive piece of evidence that will reveal the whole truth about this rotten tale. How can you... Decisive? Well, it would appear there's no escaping it now, my lord. Let it be so then. Present whatever you think you have that can settle this decade-old enigma, if you're capable. What exactly is this evidence that the defense claims to be so decisive?
Take that!
I got the will. There was a single piece of evidence that can clarify what really happened 10 years ago. Gastrointestinal chlor Clint Van Zeeks. Ha! A wonderfully astute observation, I'm sure. But in case it has escaped your notice, that document was last lost long ago. That's right, it was. Only... I have it right here, discovered just moments ago. Impossible! That can't be! Everything that's happened comes back to this will. This document is the key that will unlock the entire mystery. It's time to go down, ancestor of Damon Gant. My brother's last will and testament. Where did you find that? It was rolled up inside this. Inside Karuma. The ultimate weapon Genshin Hatsuki obtained his lane undisturbed in the hills of this horde all these years. Just waiting for the right time to emerge and reveal the truth. Signature and seal certainly look official. My God, it's true. It's my brother's handwriting. There can be no mistake. I forbid the contents of that document from being read out. Do you hear me? I strictly forbid it.
Objection.
You can't do that, my lord. This argument could explain everything. That argument could literally destroy the meaning of justice in this country. I demand that you hand it to me at once. Why? What are you trying to hide? Could it be that you already know what's written on this page? What are you implying? Court is adjourned with immediate effect. Clear the courtroom.
Objection!
Do that, my lord. And you'll suffer a fatal blow as Lord Chief Justice. I beg your pardon. Forcibly ending a trial without good reason. And not any trial. A closed trial by her order of Her Majesty the Queen. To defy the monarch's will is treason. Arrgh. It's time to reveal the truth now, boy. Well, well, my lord. It would rather appear as though proceedings aren't going quite as you hoped. You fools. Go ahead, Ryunosuke. Read it. The prosecution gives it full support. Very well, then. No. For God's sake. No! Okay, that was just an animation very similar to frickin' Damon Gant. I pen this, my last will and testament, in the final moments before my inevitable and willing death. The hour is 11 p.m., and I sit at my desk in my office. My good friend Asugi stands on my shoulder. He has expressed his intent to invoke the dying ritual of the duel, that I may depart this world with honor. An honor of which I am utterly undeserving. The Japanese are truly a merciful people. I, Clint Van Zeeks, Lord of the Manor of the Van Zeeks Estate, hereby confess to the following. I am the killer who come to be known in society as the Professor, guilty of 4 counts of murder. I will not hear discourse the corruption rife among the aristocracy, which is to me, as one of them, so apparent. However, 6 months ago, I took the life of a member of the House of Lords, at the heart of the depravity. A demon who habitually sacrificed the common man to further his own interests, abusing his position of power. The law is impotent against such vile avarice. Only a fellow demon can rid society of this menace. The demon was my quarry, upon whom I willingly set my great hound. The Hound of Baskervilles. But though I am a hunter of some experience, I am a poor felon, it seems. My guilt was at once recognized by another, and I became subject to his extortion. He held me over the threat of exposing my wicked crime to my beloved wife and brother. Under that threat, I have done this man's bidding for months now, killing those he demanded I kill. As I watched my former mentor perish before my eyes at the jaws of the hound I commanded, I realized that I had lost the last shred of decency within me, and sunk to the level of a wild beast. There is no path back to light. Be it I, or my dear friend Asugi who dies this night, I am eternally damned. To my extortioner, Miles Strongheart, may you feel the jaws of the beast at your throat every time you swallow. He was behind it all. So now we know. Yes, Clint Van Zieks was a murderer. But somebody was directing him and naming his victims. He was the lapdog. His extortioner, Lord Miles Strongheart, it was you! Lord Strongheart, a moment ago, you claim that the court has just heard could destroy justice in this country. But you weren't trying to protect justice at all. All you were trying to do was conceal the secret of your true nature and the countless lives you sacrificed up till now. Yeah. You're only seeking justice for yourself. It just didn't make sense to me that the third victim, the former Lord Chief Justice, was brother's benefactor and a man of lofty principles. As I said, Clint had no possible reason to kill the man. But you did, didn't you, Lord Strongheart? To eliminate the man who stood between you and the office you set your sights on. You used your own hunting dog, Lord Clint Van Zieks, to take him down. It had to be done. London's unsavory shadows are deep, and the arm of the law fails to reach their depths. Crime must be cut down at the roots, but the Lord Chief Justice at the time couldn't see that. He was weak. Lofty principles, you say? Tantamount to cowardice, if you ask me. Which is why I took his place, in order to fight the crime he was allowing to spread like wildfire. By murdering the man? The Reaper, the Professor, the name makes no difference. As I've explained countless times already, it was all done for the furtherance of law and order in London.
Objection!
Are you going to legitimize the murder of my father now, too? Ah, Genshin Asugi. Well, that was unfortunate. I had fully intended to send him back as we'd agreed. I don't believe you. It was you, wasn't it? You killed him. No, it wasn't me who took your father's life. Then who? On the night following his mock execution, I went to Locate Cemetery at 3 in the morning with Jigoku. Shigoku? There had to be a collaborator on the Japanese side to manage Asugi's treatment after his reparation. Jigoku had fierce ambition. It made him easy to manipulate. 10 years ago, after he'd stood trial for the destruction of the witness stand, I had words for him. When I told him a position of the Minister of Foreign Affairs could be his, he couldn't agree fast enough. Seishiro, you fool. As you know, Asugi escaped the prison in a closed casket and was subsequently interred. We intended to dig him out of his grave before he ran out of air. But sadly, all did not go to plan. There was an unexpected visitor to the cemetery with his own ideas about digging up graves. A man who witnessed what nobody was supposed to see. Enoch Driver. Of course, I knew grave robbers frequented London cemeteries. But that grave on that particular night... Blast! People find the covenant wasn't really executed. The scandal rocked the very foundations of the Empire. And what do we do? Shoot him, Mr. Jigoku. Shoot Aosugi at once. He can't live now that this has happened. He has to go. What are you talking about? You had an agreement. You promised me he could return to Japan. Everything has changed now. If the truth got out because of this, both of us would be finished forever. Come on, Jigoku, do it. Pull the trigger. Shoot! Jigoku shot Aosugi from the shadows. The grave robber was so close the blood sprayed over his coat. He fled as fast as his legs would carry him. Then Jigoku and I put Aosugi's body back in the grave from which he just emerged. When I later learned of the Westward Muddler's presence at the scene as well, I made her swear to two things. Never to remove the professor's mask, and never to speak of the events of that night. And with that, the secret was buried along with Aosugi's corpse. So, now you know exactly what happened at Locate Cemetery that night. It was Jigoku, your Japanese acquaintance, who killed Aosugi in the end, you see. He claimed to be the man's friend, but when push came to shove, he pulled the trigger. Minister of Foreign Affairs, negotiating international treaties with Britain. You can imagine what would happen if it came to light he murdered a compatriot 10 years earlier. He would have lost everything. I merely reminded him of that. How do you sleep at night? These past 10 years, I fought tirelessly with the darker recesses of London's criminal underworld. And I've used whatever means necessary to ensure that justice prevails and law and order reigns supreme.
Objection!
That couldn't be further from the truth. Fact is, you haven't fought crime at all. How dare you? I saved Clint Van Zieks from dishonor in his death.
Objection!
Whilst behind the scenes, you systematically buried anyone who stood in your way. Then you made father take the blame. It was unavoidable. It's the only way to protect our justice system and public order. Sorry, buddy. You're just lying to yourself at this point. You probably have been lying to yourself for 10 years. Let's not forget the others you killed as well. Setting a defendant up as a Reaper to cover up the truth behind the murders of countless more. That's enough! Do you have any idea of conniving that led to the acquittals of those wretched criminals? We have fought fire with fire. Our courts can't function without a Reaper. Can't you see all I've done for this country? This has been my struggle.
Objection.
You've done nothing. It's Lord Van Zeeks here who worked tirelessly and justly in court, whilst enduring the disgrace of the Reaper name. Inspector Grexit, frontman anguished for having sullied his hands through a desire to do the right thing. Not to mention Gensen Asoki, who risked his life going in pursuit of the truth you tried to hide. No, the Dr. Recess of the Lords in London's underworld were largely filled by you. You little... When will you get it through your thick skulls? And it was all for Queen and country. I'm tiring of that excuse. You've consistently twisted the truth for bargaining power and make others do your bidding. Nothing more. People who willingly twist the truth and coerce others have no right to call themselves part of the judiciary. I strongly suggest you don't ever talk of justice again. The clap! Oh my god, he really is an ancestor to Damon Gantz. He really is. Well, well, well. Dear me, my good fellows. Dear me. A well-deserved round of applause, I think, for quite a marvelous performance. What are you talking about? Slightly grave expressions that beautifully pronounce Queen's English. Really, our friends from the Far East are quite the picture of industriousness. You fraud! Keep your mockery! Please, don't misunderstand. It really is exactly as you both said. What are you trying to say? I've occupied the Dr. Recess of London's underworld, and how do you put it? Done nothing. I confess it's a little embarrassing to have pointed it out quite so starkly, but yes, I really have done nothing, which means I can be addicted for nothing. No. What? It's true. Personally, I've committed no crime. I've merely been surrounded by fools who've acted very rashly indeed.
Objection.
You can't get away with that. You consistently preyed on people's weaknesses. And what? Threaten them? Are you sure it wasn't just bargaining? I would like to address all the good lords, ladies, and gentlemen of the judiciary here present. You all know of those darker recesses of our great capital, and deep down, I believe you all know that to fight those who dwell there requires at least some of us to occupy the darkness ourselves. So let me appeal to your good sense now. Consider the situation with me. If this catalog of horrifying revelations were to become common knowledge among the 6 million inhabitants of London, what might happen? To learn that the infamous murderer of royals and nobles was a respected member of the aristocracy himself. That evidence was fabricated in the scapegoat's trial amid secret negotiations with prosecutors to effect a jailbreak. That the Reaper of the Bailey was an organized member of assassins managed by a Scotland Yard inspector. And finally, that it was all masterminded by the Lord Chief Justice himself. If the general public of Britain knew the truth, all faith in the police and the prosecutor's office would be completely lost. Without doubt. Public order in the capital would completely break down. It'd be classified to a lot of the states of the last century. Precisely. As it was 100 years ago when 10 of the population were criminals. Think what we've accomplished since then. A public policing force, a comprehensive set of laws. And we want to continue to protect this new era of law and order. I say again, we must at times occupy the darkness ourselves. What a frickin' liberal mindset. That's just neoliberalism right there. We have successfully identified and apprehended the man responsible for taking Inspector Gregson to life. That is all that was expected of this trial, and all other matters that have been discussed will be eliminated from the minutes of these proceedings in the interest of preserving law and order. And to protect Her Majesty the Queen, of course. Well, my lords, ladies and gentlemen, what say you? Don't frickin' listen to his propaganda. Are you hearing this? This is the will of the British judiciary? They are corrupt, just like him. For your rousing response, friends, I express my heartfelt gratitude. Therefore, in accordance with the overwhelming wish of the court, the records shall be erased. You have to respect the man's ability to turn a situation to his favor. Lord Strongheart really is a master of manipulation. You've clumsily proven his guilt, and yet still managed to evade justice. Just don't know what we could do. Renosuke. Looks like the trial really is going to come to an end now. Almost out of options, I think. There's really only one path left open for me. Evidence. Yes, as I only know too well. The only thing that carries any weight in court is hard evidence. Mr. Naruto! What evidence is there used in this stage in the trial? I think it's time to call a certain somebody. I have an idea. I don't know whether anything will come of it, but if there was ever a time for using the sparkly item we have among the evidence, it's now. It's time to bring him out. Let's go!
Take that!
Oh my, yes, Mr. Sholmes asked if you had that with you earlier. We've exposed all of Lord Strongheart's wrongdoing now. I've no doubt that Mr. Sholmes has already deduced exactly how the truth will unfurl. So I think it must be time for the great detective to take center stage, don't you? Yes, absolutely. Let's take the hair by the ears then, and heave! Alright, here goes. Heave! Ow, 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 ow. My dear fellows, must I remind you every time? A gentle tug will suffice. Sholmes. You're looking in quite the wrong direction, Mr. Naruto. Because I'm over here. Mr. Naruto, he's... Hologram. Mr. Sholmes. I wasn't expecting you back, Sholmes. Delighted to be here again, Lord Strongheart. What is the meaning of this? Bailiff, seize him! Put that man in irons! I don't think you're gonna be able to arrest a freaking hologram boy. This is a closed court. You've been warned once already, man. What the? We can't get a hold of him, my lord. we just go right through him. You sure do. I'm afraid your efforts are wasted. You see, the great detective you see before you is composed entirely of light and shadow, an image, if you will. Mr. Naruto, I must congratulate you on your fine deductions. Mr. Sholmes, what on earth is... Are you familiar, I wonder, with the invention known as the telephone? Well, yes, I hear that some public phones have been installed recently in Tokyo. The sound of the speaker's voice converted to an electrical signal and transmitted instantly to another place. Quite. Sounds are transmitted. So could not images keep them in company, I mused. Iris and I did some modest experimentation to develop such a device specifically for this very day. Modest experimentation, Mr. Sholmes? What a modest description. And someone incidentally, I thought we might just as well transmit an entire scene. Someone incidentally, Mr. Sholmes? Now you're just being immodest. Do you mean to say you're not actually here, Sholmes? Ah, I knew my trusty partner would have no trouble grasping the concept. And he's grasping the stand, setting himself after your shock arrival. Poor father. I would have hoped he might have been forewarned, being the great detective's great partner. Leave my courtroom at once. Get out, or I swear to you. Dear me. You, on the other hand, Lord Stronghand, appear to have a very poor grasp of the situation. Allow me to reiterate, I am not here, which would, I hope, lead to naturally one asking, where exactly are you? The very question I was awaiting. I am at present enjoying the air in a rather splendid garden. A garden? Not just any garden, you understand. A garden at Buckingham Palace. What? You can't be! Buckingham Palace! What's Buckingham Palace, Mr. Udo? I never heard of it. Do you ever read the news, Mr. Naruto? Mr. Sholmes? Is Iris with you there? Well now, Iris is currently enjoying some tea. With Her Majesty. Her Majesty? Not just any Her Majesty, you understand. Her Majesty the Queen of the British Empire. What? What on earth is all this about? Buckingham Palace is Her Majesty the Queen's residence in London, Mr. Naruto. Order! Order in the court. I demand immediate silence. Her Majesty the Queen, you can't be. I mean, no. It's some sort of unfriendly, trickery by a third-rate detective, that's all. Unforgivably distasteful trickery. What an apt description. Close court session attended by elite members of the judiciary is a rare event. I presume that Master would be more than a little curious about the proceedings. So I decided to show her everything, from start to finish. Oh, Sholmes! Strongheart, you're fucking done for. You showed her? Indeed. By dint of the Herlock Sholmes remote cinematograph. You meddling! It's some kind of nightmare. Just as I appear to be standing before you, regaling with talk of my latest invention. No doubt you inferred that the reverse is also true. You don't mean... Her Majesty has seen and heard every moment of the proceedings. I assume there would be no objection. After all, every trial in this country is conducted under the auspice of Her Majesty, as you know. You... I confess, I am quite impatient to Her Majesty's opinion about the unforgivably distasteful trickery in which you've been engaged over the past 10 years. I was merely... Oh, so sorry to keep you all waiting. Vicky and I have so much to talk about. Victoria. Iris, there you are. In fact, I have a little message here for Her Majesty. A message? Here we go. Well then, is everyone sitting comfortably? Forthwith, and with immediate effect, all authority previously afforded to male Strongheart is hereby revoked forevermore. Furthermore, he will be prosecuted for crimes against his country in public trial by jury in the coming days. So it seems that Her Majesty doesn't believe we need to fight fire with fire. Justice in this country needn't be administered in the shadows at all. Gotcha, bitch! Well, Strongheart. The darkness you fostered to conceal your despicable actions these last 10 years is a thing in the past now. After today, your brand of law and order has no future, because no longer are you the Lord Chief Justice. In the eyes of the law, in Her Majesty the Queen, you are nothing but a criminal. Adjourned! 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 Court is adjourned! Holy shit. Mega guilty. He broke his stick indeed. Oh shit, oh shit. Oh. Damn. That's the most freaking... That's the most... Whoa! That's the most wild breakdown I've ever seen. Yeah, that's guilty. Without a doubt. Lord Clinfant ceased let the will in it, in which he confessed to everything. When those words came out of Asogi's mouth, it deranged me completely. I knew I must do something and everything in my power to contain the situation. But I couldn't find the damn document. I searched his cell, but it wasn't there. Which participated in the jailbreak plots, I presume. What do you mean? The need to obtain that will was all-consuming. I was sure that if I facilitated Asogi's escape, he would emerge with the will somewhere on his person. But despite searching his limp body in the cemetery that night, it still eluded me. It never even crossed my mind, and it was concealed in the sword's hilt. Well, too bad for you, fucko. Get him out of here. What pains me now is that my brother left this world without a word to me. Sorry, Lord Van Zeeks? In point of fact, I think perhaps that isn't the case. Sorry? How can that be? There is more to his last will and testament. What? As I confront the prospect of my demise, I feel bitter regret for my younger brother. Barak, you have always looked up to me, and now you follow in my footsteps to become a prosecutor. It is my fervent wish that my unspeakable deeds should not hinder your advancement. I ask not for understanding, for none could understand my depravity. I ask only for forgiveness. Asogi is a fine detective and a hunter worthy of respect. He's agreed to honor my final two wishes. The first is that this document survives. The second, I cannot commit to paper. I have confessed my sins to my wife. May she find resolution in my death. With my eternal gratitude to my Japanese friend, I rest my quill. Clint Van Zeeks. Clint. And now the man behind it all will be tried. Miles Strongheart, you colluded with Seishiro Jigoku in a criminal plot so immense it spanned the oceans. And you could have hardly murdered all those who knew the truth about what happened 10 years ago. But why did you set about that now, a whole decade later? To ascend to the very peak. These last 10 years made me realize being the Lord Chief Justice wasn't enough. Short of becoming Her Majesty's Attorney General, I could have no real power to affect the real changes needed in this country. And for that promotion, I needed to ensure that no remnants of the past remained. How could you? I like everything to run smoothly in the exact manner that I prescribe, like a well-oiled machine. And I was just a step away. For your ambition to succeed. Did you even bother to count the number of brilliant people you had killed? Ah, Mr. Reaper, are you not forgetting something? Such as... You very much adopted your original prosecutor-like demeanor in the proceedings now. But the reality of the situation is that you are the defendant in this trial. Ah. However, the presiding judge would appear to have fallen from the bench, as it were. May I suggest, therefore, that we entrust the final adjudication to an old friend? My lord! As a member of the judiciary, I have been following proceedings for the gallery. And I must say, I shan't ever forget the extraordinary battle between good and evil that I witnessed here today. Best judge! The darkness that has blighted justice on our land these past 10 years has at last been dispelled. Thanks, in no small part, the efforts of a bright young star from the east. Defense Counsel Naruhodo. Yes, my lord? On behalf of everyone here and present in the Old Bailey, I give you my heartfelt thanks. You're too kind, my lord. The first time I faced you in court, just under a year ago now, I had the faintest of imitations. That a British justice so warped and twisted over its long history was finally to know change. This might just be the man to do it. What? But at the same time, I wouldn't allow myself to acknowledge the possibility. I couldn't overcome my hatred of the Japanese after the circumstances of my brother's death. Mr. Naruto, allow me to apologize for countless discourtesies on my part. You are a lawyer, a boundless talent. Oh, Lord Van Zeeks. When I first arrived in Great Britain, I was literally nobody. Certainly not a lawyer. The truth is, my fortunes have entirely been made by the miraculous people I've met. My best friend, Kazuma Asogi, who led me here to Britain in the first place. My loyal and ever-patient judicial assistant, Miss Suzuko, who helped me study to become a lawyer. The brilliant Lord Van Zeeks, who never failed to challenge his Nipponese rival. And not to mention, the exceptional master of logic and reasoning, who showed me the true art of deduction, Mr. Sholmes. Saving the best for last, Mr. Naruto. What a relief. I'm well aware that without all these people's help and support, I wouldn't be where I am today. Truth is, a guiding light that always leads to happiness. I have lived by that principle for a long time now, but actually, it's not true. The truth can also cause great pain, and sometimes even lead people on the brink of despair. And for that reason, there are those who feel the need to hide the truth, who do it instinctively even. But as soon as we allow our eyes to settle on something other than truth, the darkness takes hold. And from there, it grows, until eventually, it makes us blind to the guiding light of the truth altogether. So that's why it's my belief that we must all resolve never to avert our eyes from what is just and true. So that we can continue to walk the straight and narrow path instead. Oh boy. The straight and narrow path! Well, I must excuse myself now. Before I go... Also, there are no straight roads. There's always a twisted path. Before I go, Mr. Naruto, let me compliment you on your grand opus. What? Without your beautifully composed case against Lord Strongheart, Her Majesty would have been unable to act. Thanks to you and your fellows, the haunting undertones corrupting Britain's justice system has been silenced. Thank you very much. So, until our paths cross again somewhere. Well then, it would appear that this long trial has finally come to an end. My apologies for any anxiety caused, my lord. I'm quite sure we shall meet again here in the courtroom before long, Prosecutor Barrack von Zeeks. In conclusion of these proceedings, I hereby declare the defendant, Barrack von Zeeks, not guilty. Woo! That is all. Court is adjourned. Good. I'm glad I got to stick it to Strongheart. Well, at least from how I'm feeling, I think that was like a very strong ending case. Like, it's a very long one. Like, honestly, yes, it felt like defeating Daemon. Like, the guy literally freaking did the clap too at the end. He literally did the freaking clap, and it was like, oh my god, he really is just an ancestor of Daemon Gant. It's wild. Oh, but I sacrificed too much. But it like, as a case, it's like very similar to the case, well, the new case 5 of the first game. It's very reminiscent of that, where you're trying to take down one of the law's biggest people. Here, it's the Lord Chief Justice, where he's essentially the chief of police, technically, more or less, just like Daemon Gant is. So there's that. Very similar positions of power. It's just that Lord Chief Justice has power over being a judge. I really must congratulate you. It's a truly, truly splendid performance. Honestly, I couldn't be happier for you. Well, thank you very much. Wild. Very lion, and yeah, very lion mane. 2 in Ace Attorney and 1 in Merc. Wild. Oh wait, yeah, the lion police chief, yeah, him. Kind words mean so much to me. It really was a very splendid show, that Naruhodo. I'd had much thought you'd be smiling from ear to ear, but you look rather glum. Well, of course I'm delighted about the verdict. In exposing the truth, I'm afraid I'm caused my client a great deal of pain. I'm really not sure that's what a lawyer ought to be doing. Oh well, in that case, I'm quite sure that when you see Lord Van Zeke's smiling face, everything will seem much better. Yeah, sure. The smiling face of, the smiling face of fucking Van Zeke's here. I think we had multiple back and forths on it. Yeah, there was like, it's like a lion mane, like it's like pushed back. It looks like he has a lion mane. I don't think he can. Actually, hang on. He did smile in a picture, but that was 10 years ago in game time. So, I don't think he can smile anymore. Oh dear, I really shouldn't have presumed. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? Almost a year it's been now since I first encountered you here in this very courtroom. Smile machine broke, yes. For you to have risen to the level of excellence you demonstrated today, well, it's quite remarkable. But I exposed the most unpalatable truth you could never imagine in your court today. Feels like I've robbed you of something you held so dear. What was it he said? To fight those who dwell in the darkness requires at least some of us to occupy the darkness ourselves. But that was just the feeble excuse of a coward. Only those with a steadfast eye for the truth have what it takes to fight the dark forces of crime. You made fine work of establishing that fact in court today. Oh. Well, thank you. What magnanimous words. Quite sure that Kazuma-sama would have a smile on his face at this very moment if he were here. Kazuma. Nope. Hi, Kazuma. Now you're being gloomy. Miss Susato. There's another place like thunder here. Oh my, he really was here. Susato, please. Lord Van Zeeks. Allow me to congratulate you on your acquittal. Congratulate me? Or curse me? You failed to bring down the Reaper. I owe you an apology. No, it is I who should apologize. Your father, Genshin, if I had been stronger, then perhaps I made an unforgivable error of judgment. I can offer no excuse. And I can offer no forgiveness. That said, I suppose you fought for justice and the truth. For that at least I can't withhold respect. Your words mean more to me than you could know. I hold them dear. Kazuma-sama. I must say, there's one thing that's still bothering me. What's that? The will that Lord Zeeks wrote before his duel with my father. Asoki is a fine detective, and a hunter worthy of respect. He has agreed to honor my final two wishes. The final is that this argument survives. The second, can it commit to paper? I have confessed my sins to my wife. May she find resolution in my death. With my eternal gratitude to my Japanese friend, I rest my quill. Clint Van Zeeks. What can the second of his final wishes have been? That your father agreed to honor, you mean? He wanted the justice system to change. And that's what your father carried. I may be able to shed some light on that. What? Father! It was 10 years ago. As you know, the day before the execution was scheduled, I went to the prison to say my farewells to Genshin. Why aren't you putting up more of a fight, Genshin? If you only agreed to it, Seishiro and I would gladly petition the government. We've been through this already. You don't need to worry about me. Anyway, Eugene. I have a favor to ask of you. Something of great importance. You're one of my greatest friends, Genshin. Whatever it is, consider it done. Yes, but that's a bit of a problem, though. Like... The thing about that is... Lenin's ideas are very much reminiscent of Marx. His actions, though, are not. His actions speak differently from his words. That is the big issue with Lenin. Lady of Gendry. I mean, I guess. But I'm just saying. My main thing is that I trust the words, I don't trust the actions. Fair enough. It's a favor that was asked of me by a man I knew as his dying wish. My goodness. Swore to the man that I would help, that I would do whatever I could for his wife and his unborn child. Something should happen to me. And he asks you that same favor. You're the only person I know that I can truly rely on. What did you say? Something should happen to you. Tomorrow night you're going to be. You never knew, though. What life will bring. Alright then, tell me the address. I'll there at once with Seish Rowan. No, not with him. Pardon? This is a favor I'm asking of you, and only you, Eugene. Right, I see. Very well then. That very night, I caught a train from Paddington to Dartmoor in Devon. I found the old house in the middle of nowhere. It was an old hunting ground, lay asleep in the grounds. The poor woman was on the floor, at the back of the darkened room. She was in mortal danger. I broke her water to precipitate the labor before she was wakened further, but it was a torturous birth. Wait. Are you telling me this is her mother? She's 10 years old and that's her mother. Oh, in the end, I was lucky enough to welcome a new life into the world. But tragically, my efforts to save a mother's life were in vain. I held the healthy newborn girl in my arms and wept for longer than I care to remember. Eventually, something in a daze, I looked around the room. There was a precious little in it, but an old travel trunk caught my eye. It had clearly been well looked over after the years, and of top quality leather with fine stitching. It's when I saw the emblem on the side of it that everything dropped into place. Baskerville. B for Baskerville. Baskerville? You mean the woman was the wife of Lord Clint Van Zeeks? No, that wasn't Emily. That was a baby. That was a baby in the game. You mean the woman was the wife of Lord Clint Van Zeeks? That's right. The newborn was his daughter. Wait. You mean to tell me Iris is a frickin' Van Zeeks? Fucking wild. The newborn was his daughter. That makes no sense. Oh my god. Why on earth wouldn't Clint have entrusted the child in my care in that case? I was completely unaware that he had a daughter. I suppose he didn't really have any choice. What? Well, your brother said he confessed everything to his wife. So she must have beside herself with worry for her child. The true identity of the professor were ever to be made public, the girl would be forever branded as the daughter of the infamous mass murderer. Oh. So the only solution was to distance the young girl from the Van Zeeks family as much as possible. I don't believe it. I imagine that in his final hour, Lord Clint Van Zeeks made the obvious choice. He would have thought to himself, this Japanese man here is someone I can trust. I honored my promise to Genshin, of course. However, only a month later, I was summoned back to Japan. And without disclosing the parentage of the child, I couldn't obtain permission to take her with me. Oh, how awful. And let me guess, you had to drop her off with Sholmes. Split at a loss. In the end, I had asked my great friend. Yep. I asked him if he would be a father to her. That being Mr. Sholmes, I presume. Yes. He took one look into my eyes and agreed to it on the spot. Mr. Sholmes, he has a heart of gold. Even if he is kind of stupid. Really, all it can be said that I did for the child was give her a name. Oh? When I come to Britain, I was trying to escape from the grief of losing my darling wife. So it was her name that I gave the little girl. Iris. Her wife's name, Professor Mikotoba. In other words. The name of my mother. Ayame Mikotoba. Well, no! That's not right. That's not right. Ayame. We're in English. Iris. Ooh. Tricky. Iris. I had no idea. That kind of makes you, you and Iris half-sisters, almost. This little thing just pinched me on the behind through my trouser pocket hard. Ah, my dear fellows, can you hear me? Sholmes, is that you? Yes, we can hear you. You see what excessive tugging can do? Let that be a lesson to you. Shoals, we weren't able to thank you properly before, but we were simply marvelous. Your checkmate move was a stroke of genius. Indeed it was, wasn't it? I surpassed myself, I feel. It would become apparent to me that to stop the Lord Chief Justice would require such measures. Bruno, Susie, no, Iris. Oh, I'm so pleased. What a wonderful outcome. Her Majesty Queen Vicky, and she thought my special blend was delicious. Oh, sure she did. After all, no one brews a more delicious tea than you do, Iris. Let's have a party to celebrate. Mr. Reaper, you simply must come too. I'm afraid I couldn't. Reaper the Bailey, flustered by a 10-year-old girl. Again. No, really? Oh, poo. But I give you my word. Then I shall present myself at your residence in the near future to express my gratitude. Oh, how lovely. You promise now. I won't let you forget. Bye for now, then. Alright, Iris. Thank you for all your help earlier. That was nothing. Just come back home soon. One final pinch goodbye, was it? Right on the butt. Well, I think I ought to be leaving. Lord Van Zeeks, would you care to accompany me? Certainly. Mr. Naruto, allow me once again to express my deep gratitude to you. I believe you saved my life. Goodbye, racist man. Goodbye. Wait, Lord Van Zeeks. Yes? What are you intending to do now? Well, clearly I shall have to resign from the prosecutor's office. Oh no! I intend to publicize the full truth about the Professor case. Once that's done, the Van Zeeks family will be ostracized completely from London society. Surely not. It's what he feels he needs to do. So as soon as I am free from my employment, I shall leave the capital. Oh, I see. Don't be a fool. Are those the actions of a man once feared as the mighty Reaper of the Bailey? I beg your pardon. For the past 10 years, you've endured that pseudonym and been cast as one of the dark forces yourself. Now that you've finally been freed from the disrepute, your battle is just beginning, surely. Well, I certainly never expected to hear those words from your lips. I waited a very long time to come to London. Now I'm properly here. I intend to learn all that I can. Anyway, goodbye for now. Rinosuke Naruto. Boy! Kazuma Asogi. Seems as though he's really matured suddenly. He's not the only one who's matured, Mr. Naruto. Hmm? Well, I think we should make our way back to Baker Street. Let's help Iris with tonight's dinner. We must. Let's go! It was then that I came to an important decision about my future. Are you gonna stay? I'm home. Ah! What time you got here? We've been waiting ages, Odo. What are you doing with that colorful piece of history? It's a party, innit? It's gonna go off with a bang. I mean, fireworks, ideally. When you get ain't got fire, smoke's the next best thing, ain't it? There's a girl on Fresno Street who could help you with that, I think. I mean, you're not wrong. Right, I'll remember that. Oh, great. She's gonna shoot fireworks out of that damn thing, isn't she? I don't think he's actually even made anything. If I remember correctly, I don't think he's made anything off of these jobs. Plus, I heard the same sort of thing happened to Phoenix, so both are kind of in awful places financially. This is all pro bono yet. Right, I remember that. I don't have to reload that thing every time I speak. I really must hear this. It's quite the most extraordinary thing. I assure you, it will defy your expectations. Take down every detail now, Mikotoba. Ah, the world-famous detective, regaling his partner with the tale of his adventure. A sight to behold. Would you care to hazard a guess? Where do you suppose the Phoenix runaway had concealed himself? What do you believe? Inside the trunk I found abandoned in his cabin. I would believe it, yes. I say, Mikotoba, I detect now a hint of surprise. I wonder why that is, Maybe because I was there at the scene as well, Pshomes. What? You were? Then why the deuce didn't you say so before? Remember, this guy has an extraordinarily bad memory. Not the quite I was expecting to behold, but still. It's hard not to feel privileged to see it. Hello, Miss Sholmes, Professor Mikotoba. I'm back from Bailey. And not a moment too soon. A feast prepared for Iris and Miss Mikotoba awaits. I must say, I haven't seen Suzuto looking so happy in a very long time. Oh, Bruno, there you are. Dinner's on the table, everyone. Please do come and take a seat. Time to fill me boots. Eat. Yum. Goodness. Is that really true, Gina? Yep. I'm losing me Copper's Clobber and going back to what I know best. It's a diver's life for me. Oof. Really leaving the police force? But why, Ginny? Well, the boss ain't around no more, so... Oh. Anyway, no matter how hard I try, that Reaper never gonna accept a dive-turned dick, is he? Well, people can change, you know? Ah, yes, that reminds me. Perfectly thoughtfully offered to relieve the bailiff of this now-defunct piece of evidence. Eh? It's Spectre's pocket watch. Yay! The theme, too. And the crown has been reattached. That watch is his pride and joy, a symbol of his great achievements at Scotland Yard. For 10 years without fail, it measured every second of the man's remarkable career. But now, it stopped. Someone needs to keep the memory of Inspector Rexton's career alive. Taking on the great responsibility of winding that watch every single day again. Yes, someone with equally fierce detective spirit. It's gotta be me. There ain't no one else. Quite right. I mean, after all, the boss was... Well, he was my boss. Yes, Ginny, yes, he was. She's proud. That is a proud face. Oh yeah, I made you a promise and all, didn't I, Iris? Then I became a proper detective one day and tracked down your old man. Oh. We know? Alright, then it's decided, I'll do it, and I swear. I'll find your dad and bring him in kicking and screaming. Oh, no. You're not gonna be able to do that, sorry. I'm not entirely sure that would be appropriate. Yes, I think Gina might be best to, well... I think I'd like you to forget that promise, Ginny. Eh? Iris? Well, obviously I've always wondered about who my real daddy is, of course I have. I want to know where I came from. I thought it might tell me something about myself. I caused such a trouble of trying to find out for so many people. Hurley, Runo, Professor Mickey... Oh no, not at all, my dear. Really, you owe no apology to anyone. Well, anyway, I decided to give up on it, because I finally realized my daddy is the greatest in the world. I don't think it matters what his name or where he's from. Don't you agree, Hurley? With every word, Iris. Thank you, Hurley. Thank you, Daddy. I think, Mikotoba... Yes, Sholmes? I think that I expressed my gratitude to you. Oh? For 6 years, you and I solved many a mystery together. And during that time, I remember countless expressions of gratitude for our good services. But a moment ago, I heard the most pleasing expression of gratitude of them all. And I should never have experienced it, were it not for you. You old softy, Sholmes. Also, Sholmes being, sentimental is, copyrighted. So that's another reason why... Well... Yeah, that's copyrighted with Holmes, so, that's why they went with the Sholmes thing again, because certain aspects of the character are copyrighted, so, yeah, oh boy. But I must confess, it's a weight off my mind to hear you say it. Well then, I think this calls for a lengthy violin recital, wouldn't you say? Oh, well, the food would go cold, that's the only problem. Maybe next week, Hurley. Are you sure a week is long enough, Iris? Even amidst the most troubling of cases, even reeling from the most shocking of revelations, returning in the evening to this suite of rooms, there's always warmth and happiness to be had. The home of the world's greatest detective, and my home too, with my greatest family. This attic room has been my home and office for almost a year now. I've certainly had some unforgettable experiences while I've lived here. But I think now, the time has come. Time to bid this place farewell. Naruhodo. Oh, Professor! Are you alone? I didn't hear any sound from Susado's room. Yes, Susato-san went out after dinner. She took a carriage. Something about an important matter she needed to take care of. Ah, I see. I wanted to thank you for what you did earlier. Oh? With Iris, I mean. When the subject of her father came up. Lord Clint Van Zeeks. I made up my mind many years ago to never tell her who her real father was. It was what was agreed with Genshin, after all. Lord Clint Van Zeeks' final wishes before he died, you mean? Yes, I had to take some rather drastic steps at times to protect that secret, you know. Calling Tsutodo back to Japan 6 months ago, for example. That's why? When I read Sosuke-san's report about his final days in London, my heart nearly stopped. You stumbled across the crux of that terrible case, the dog's collar. Description of the Baskerville insignia left me in no doubt. Baskerville. If you decided to investigate the insignia, sooner or later, you'd have made the connection to Van Zeeks. And to make matters worse, Susato knew of the unpublished story as well. A story that Iris had written based on my notes from the time. Yes, the Hound of Baskervilles. Exactly. It was a work of fiction, but based on the grim reality of a huge beast and a dog being used as a murder weapon. A dog with the Baskerville family emblem around its neck. Armed with those two clues, I feared you and Tuzudo might arrive at the truth. So I invented that story about having collapsed to justify her leaving London and returning to Japan at once. All in the aid of halting any investigations you and she might have been contemplating. I see. Something I never understood. That's why Suzuto-san came across the manuscript in Japan, though. You know, Iris's The Hound of Baskerville story, I mean. Shulm sent it to me. That was before Suzuto left Japan. He was very troubled about what would be done about it, you see. I'd read it as carelessly left it on my desk. Just where Suzuto came across it, of course. Ah. It was the only case Shulms and I ever pursued that I didn't record in meticulous detail. I was stunned when I discovered that young Iris had pieced together so much of it from my paltry notes. Shulms and I discussed the matter and decided that we couldn't allow the story's publication. At that point, I returned the manuscript by post to Shulms for safekeeping. Said all that to stop Iris from finding out the truth about her father? That's right, because Shulms has told me how astute she become. However, having witnessed events in court today, I must say my opinion has somewhat shifted. Oh? I think at some point in the future, the time will come for Iris to know the truth. And when it does, well, I believe it will be for the best. I think so too. Actually, Professor, I wanted to talk to you about something too. Judging from that expression, I'd say you've come to a decision, have you? Yes, I have. I will be returning with you to Japan. Are you quite sure? I'm really only here as a substitute for Kazuma. But he's here in Britain now, as originally intended. Locum student Naruhodo doesn't really have a right to stay, I think. I see. Looking back now, when I first arrived here in February, my becoming a lawyer just seemed to be the way things turned out. Kazuma, Suzuto-san, and Mr. Sholmes all gently pushing me in that direction. I spent the best part of a year immersed in this world, but always aware of a seed of doubt inside of me. Until today. Standing in that courtroom earlier, all doubts vanished from my mind. I was totally focused. I was sure of my belief in my client, and I was sure I could see the trial through. And at the end of it, I finally realized no one else chose this path for me. I chose it myself. The path of a defense lawyer, eh? Yes, that's what I am now. That's what I'll be going back with you to Japan as. And that's the path I'll be following for the rest of my life. Well, it sounds like you've made quite a resolution there. I have. Very well then. I must say, it's certainly welcome news. I shall make arrangements for your return first thing tomorrow, but I don't imagine we'll depart for a few days. Not with the symposium having been cancelled now. It's a shame. Never mind, I'm sure there'll be other opportunities in the future. Well then, I'll bid you good night. She heard that all, didn't she? Suzuto-san. I just want to let you know I'm back. Did you, hear what your father and I were discussing? Sorry, I did, yes. I couldn't help but... Oh, how much did you hear? Well... from the part about Iris's real father, I think. In other words, from the beginning. So you've made up your mind. You'll return to Japan and continue working as a defense lawyer. Oh, yes, I'm... sorry, I really should have consulted you about it. I didn't want to earlier this evening, actually, but you'd already gone out. Oh no, that's quite alright. I already knew that it's what you'd decide, Naruhodo-san. You did? Susato-san? Yes? I suppose this means has to be farewell soon. I suppose. You'll be a great help to Kazuma going forward. I mean, I know he's a brilliant lawyer, but he's new to the British courtroom. Certainly benefit greatly having a brilliant judicial assistant on his side. I'll do my very best. I wish I could say it, but I just can't. I can't ask her to come with me. After all, she was always supposed to be coming to Britain as Kazuma's assistant. She wants to come with, and she probably actually... because he has such a readable mind, I'm sure she actually knows. It's growing late. We should both try to get some sleep. I'm sure you must be exhausted after today. Oh, yes, you're right. Before I retire, let me just say one more time. You really were quite splendid at court today. So if you ask me, anyone who thinks of you as a substitute or locum student, should be ashamed of themselves. Suzuto-san. Thank you. She's gonna go with him, isn't she? That just feels. If she didn't, that'd be freaking screwed up. You gotta have your freaking Maya. I can't believe this day's finally come. You're really leaving then, Runo? Afraid so, Iris. Thank you so much for everything. I don't know what I'll do without your wonderful cooking and delicious tea. Oh, I wish you weren't going. But you have to come back and visit. Say you will. Of course. I promise. Oh, boy. It's one of those bots again. Well, it was a very brief reunion, but... It's a pleasure to pursue a case with you again after so long. For a while, at least, it felt like old times. Yes, I suppose on reflection, there's something to be said for it, having a little fun once in a while. I'll just go and say goodbye to Professor as well, I think. Alright, Iris, you do that. Hank. Hank. Thank you, babe. Thank you.
Susato-san.
I've just checked, Naruhodo-san. Your luggage is already on board. Such a beautiful morning. Perfect for embarking on a journey, isn't it?
Before I set off, I'd just like to say how thankful I am for everything you've done for me. And give my warmest regards to Kazuma, please.
Actually, I think you ought to give him your regards in person, don't you?
Sorry?
Ryunosuke,
Kazuma! What are you doing here?
do you really think I'd miss my best friend's departure?
Thanks. To be honest, I'd been looking forward to our wild time tearing up the streets of Her Majesty's capital, but,
Well, we'll have to save that for another time. Personally, I'm looking forward to facing you in court again.
Me too. But, we're both defense lawyers, so,
I'm going to become a prosecutor.
Yep.
I'll stay in Lord Van Zeek's tutelage for the time being, but before long, I intend to be just as formidable as the Reaper himself.
Former Reaper.
I see.
Actually, Ryunosuke, I have a favor to ask.
Name it.
I'd like you to take care of this for me for a while.
Karuma? Why?
Because I've seen it now.
That's gay.
I've seen what's inside me, the demon that reared its ugly head that day.
Entrusting your boyfriend with your sword.
It was only for the briefest of moments. The last time I came face to face with that inspector, but it was unmistakable. I wanted to kill him. I've always known there are demons that live inside people. And now I know there is one in me. The fact that it very nearly consumed me is something I'll carry with me until the end of my days. While I devote my life to fighting those whose demons have got the better of them. As a prosecutor.
So, that's what you've resolved to do, is it?
Until I'm ready to face the demon within me. To slay it once and for all. I leave this in your care. If you'll take it.
Of course I will. I'll keep it by my side. Always.
Adorable.
Until we meet again, then. You have your path to follow, and I have mine.
Naruhodo-san? The path you're going to follow from now on, I wonder if I might follow it at your side, and unless I'd be a burden.
What did I just say? She was not going to leave him behind. This is just the way of your phoenixes and your Mayas. There's another sword he could be sheathing in.
I mean, I would very much like you to come with me. But aren't you?
You're so predictable, Ryunosuke.
I am?
Honestly, you never change at all. But that's what I like about you.
You mean you knew about this?
Of course he
It was the
did.
evening after Lord Van Zeek's trial came to an end. She came to see me at the prosecutor's office.
Really? Or when I had that conversation with Professor Mikotoba?
So, you'd go with Ryunosuke back to Japan?
Yes. I know it's unfair of me to follow my own interests like this.
Coming here especially to tell me. You're a stickler for etiquette, aren't you? Well, what are his feelings?
We've never discussed it, of course, and Naruhodo-san has made no such suggestion. I worry that perhaps I'd be a burden to him.
He's just as much of a stickler for etiquette as you are. He'd never say anything before he was asked. But I'd feel happy knowing you were with him. Look out for him on my behalf, will you?
Of course.
Susato-san.
What do you think, Naruhodo-san?
With you by my side, no trial would seem too daunting. So if you're willing, I'd be honored if you'd come with me. Together we can take on the world.
I'm terribly incompetent, but if you'll have me, I'd be delighted.
Oh, no, not at all. If anyone's terribly incompetent, it's me.
Ah! What's wrong?
Your luggage, Susato-san. There's no time. The ship's going to set sail any minute now.
It's all right. There's no need to worry. As it happens, my luggage is already on board too.
It is?
Do you expect anything less from Susato, Ryu? Come on. She's that freaking thorough.
Your fine judicial assistant has everything in hand as always, I see.
Bruno! Your ship's about to leave!
Time to go then. Look after yourself, Ryunosuke.
Kazuma, draw your sword.
Whoa. That's gay. Yeah, that's gay.
One day, when our paths cross, once more, we'll fight a duel of words across the courtroom. A day I eagerly await as a lawyer.
I've been waiting to hear you say that, partner.
Frickin'
Don't
sword
forget me then,
gaze.
Kazuma.
As if I could, Ryunosuke.
And Mr. Sholmes, thank you so much. I'm very much indebted to you.
Indeed, Mr. Naruhodo. I believe you are.
I'll never forget all you've done for me during my time in London.
Quite. I should like to think you will remember your debt of gratitude. Especially when I visit you in your country. What? The truth is, although many are ignorant of the fact, the world is far smaller than most folk realize.
Well, I'd be delighted if you came to Japan one day.
Oh yes, we'd welcome you with open arms, Mr. Sholmes.
Oh, that sounds wonderful! I can't wait!
In that case, let us conclude that this is to be merely a brief parting, my dear fellows.
And that brings us to the end of my adventures in Great Britain. A peculiar twist of fate brought me halfway around the world those many months ago. But that was just the start of my journey. Who knows where fate will lead me next? Still, I'm confident this won't be my last meeting with the friends I've made in London. And when we're together again. No doubt, the first words I'll hear will be...
Oh.
Come, the game is afoot.
Oh, you didn't do the thing. Damn it.
The ship, with our friends from the east, sailed steadily towards the distant horizon. But Sholmes's face was alight with joy. The times may change, but a steadfast friendship will remain true, Wilson. We have but to
Maybe.
gently close our eyes, and we are with our companions once more.
So, I do just that. And when I do, I can hear his strong, familiar voice ring out.
Objection!
Yee.
Until we meet again, Bruno.
Shoot a Kumi, baby. Wardrobe class. And yeah, maybe we'll get a 3. Because I heard that this re-release actually... I heard it sold at least 500,000 copies. Which is... like 40 times 500,000, which is like... Ooh. It's quite a few million, so I think that more than makes up for their budget. Who knows? Because I definitely like to see something else come of this. Because it's just... Because, like, Because, like, the feeling I have had throughout this entire thing from 1 and 2 is that it felt very classic Ace Attorney. with new, yeah, it felt like classic Ace Attorney, but with new technology. I mean, maybe. I did plan on probably playing that at some point as it is, so... God, that's a freaking smirk right there. I don't think we've ever seen that smirk. Wild. Oh, how you doing, Ouchie? They became lawyers. Wild. Or at least Soseki did. Sushi. Oh, that's kind of morbid. That's kind of morbid, Gory. Then again, both you and your mom are pretty morbid, so... I mean, yeah, she's cute. I know that because I freaking posted screenshots of her. Too bad, Hairbrain. Too bad. Oh, hey, that spells. Yeah, that's what he said. Indeed. You were told not to show it off. That is what Strongheart said to us. Oh no! Oh no! To new ventures, I guess. I mean, at least y'all didn't get frickin' capital punishment. Hmm. Honestly, even if we don't get a 3, I'm kind of fine with that. It'd be cool to get one, but I'm also fine if they don't. Because it's just... there's like a solid ending here. Like, we already had technically the full story told just through the first 2 games. So, I don't know. Who knows? Oh no! He sure is. He sure is. It's also a pun. Because he's an ancestor to Phoenix. There we go. Off you go. Oh. There she is. Yeah, pretty good. If I remember correctly, actually, when they started making these 3D games, they went for a, motion capture thing. That's why you can kind of see, like, the walk cycle and whatnot. Granted, I think some are obviously, like, very handcrafted, but, like, you can at least see, like, some motion capture animations. Well, then again, some are actually gonna have to be handcrafted if you're gonna have a very stylistic look. That's just how it is. I guess it's really just a case of what happens next, because we technically have 2 teams working on the series now. We got the team that used to make side games now working on the main series, and now we got the people who used to work on the main series working on this, the side series. Because that's just the thing. Shu Takumi didn't want to... Well, Shu Takumi, the director of the first 3 games, he did not want to continue... He did not necessarily want to continue after, like, all of this was happening. So, Great Ace Attorney, in a way, was, like, his way to just start all over. You can have the same universe, but completely different at the same time. Jeez, I didn't realize how freaking tall he was. Strongheart's fucking huge. Yee! They're boyfriends and you can't tell me otherwise. Back to Japan. True, husbands. You gotta. They're just roommates. Roommates with benefits. Ugh. Oh. Neato. That's a freaking... That's a desktop background right there. So what do I got? Hang on. Accolades. These are all the achievements. So we got a few scattered about. Ace of shovels and spades, ladders and step ladders, Ace Attorney staples, blackboard, I'll have to go back for all these. I'm sure it won't be that difficult to do it. It's more of just doing them. So what's this? Oh. I see. Ah. Yeah, these are like little side stories. Little side stories in between everything. But I don't think that's necessarily something I need to do right now, because I'm sure they're plenty long enough. Because I've done other stuff today, and I finished up the game. So I think next time, maybe on Monday or something, we'll do, I don't know. Maybe Danganronpa, the first game, maybe. We shall see. I'll think about it. But other than that, I appreciate y'all coming by out today. Friday, it's gonna be Ni no Kuni 2. Basically, that's what I have planned for anyway. See you next time, Darth. See ya. And yeah, I'll see y'all later for Friday. Take care. I'll see y'all later.